Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, my name is Lauren and I make pregnancy and home and lifestyle videos here on YouTube. So if you would like, I would love if you wanted to subscribe down below and make sure you hit that little bell so you're notified anytime I post a new video. Now I apologize if I'm going to be looking like back and forth. I'm actually filming on my iPhone today, and normally I film on my camera, but my camera doesn't have like a front screen like a lot of YouTubers, so I don't know what I'm recording most of the time and it makes it really difficult. So I wanted to try using my iPhone so I can actually see myself and see if I'm in frame and everything. So today's story is actually not really a fun, well, not a fun video, but it's okay. It was, this happened. I want to start this off by saying that I am still pregnant. I'm almost 30 weeks pregnant now. Baby boy is healthy and kicking and everything is fine. I don't want anyone to worry. This is about a previous pregnancy. And I don't even know if any of you know about this. I have shared this with very, very few people. I didn't even tell my mom about this miscarriage until we were pregnant with this little one, because it was a very early miscarriage. I had never had an ultrasound. It was so early, so it was like around 5 to 6 weeks. But I just kind of wanted to tell my story because when it happened to me, I watched a million of these videos on YouTube, and it was just very comforting to know I wasn't alone. And I think it would be comforting to people now who might be going through this to see here I am almost a year later, almost like 7.5 months pregnant, and just to know that like you get at it gets better. So anyways, excuse me, this is my miscarriage story, and I actually like had to write it down, like write notes, because I didn't want to forget anything. And now this is actually kind of a doctor horror story as well. The way this was handled was absolutely horrible, like horrific. I mean, at least in my mind, the experience to me. I'll let you guys be the judge. But anyways, I'm just gonna get started. So me and my husband got married in June of last year, and then we got pregnant in July. So like the next cycle right afterwards, which we were totally okay with. I remember on the honeymoon being like, I'm not on birth control. Like what's our mindset? And we were kind of like, well, if God thinks it's the right time, it's the right time. Like, we're just gonna see what happens. So I found out I was pregnant in July. And so I got pregnant the cycle. I was on my period on my honeymoon, or on our wedding day, I was like on my period. So the cycle right after that is when I got pregnant. So I'm gonna be looking down because I'm writing things down. But what had happened, or how I had found out I was pregnant, is my husband was actually making like hot dogs for dinner, which we never had hot dogs. And he had those Not Your Father's root beers, which are alcoholic. And I knew there was a chance I could be pregnant. And it was like the first, like period cycle after being married. So I was like excited that there was a possibility. So I knew he was going to be, that we might have like a couple of those alcoholic beverages. So I was like, let me just go take a pregnancy test. Like totally not thinking I was pregnant at all. No symptoms, nothing. I mean, my period was supposed to come in like 2 days. So is this recording? Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna try to speed this up. I know I'm taking a while. My period was supposed to come in 2 days. So I pee on the stick and immediately there's a line. And I mean, it wasn't the strongest line in the world, but it wasn't faint either. You didn't have to like look for it. So I'll insert pictures of the pregnancy tests too. I just need to get them off of my computer. But anyways, there was a line, and I went out and I was like, James, like shaking and stuff. And so I didn't eat the hot dogs and I didn't drink the root beer. But my husband, being a guy, he didn't really understand pregnancy tests, so he wasn't 100% convinced by it. He like didn't want to get excited because he was like, well, why is that line like fainter than the other line? And I'm like, no, any line means a positive, but guys don't really know. So he was like, well, let's walk to Walgreens like after dinner to get another test, because we lived at the time in this cute little neighborhood where the apartments are like above shops, and so there was like a Walgreens. So we went to Walgreens a couple hours later and got a digital test, and sure enough, I peed on the test and it said pregnant. So I was over the moon, excited, shocked, hadn't really sunk in. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. And I just was on cloud nine. I remember the next day at work, I went to work and the owners were there, which, I mean, the owners had been there maybe 3 times the whole time I had worked there, and I worked there 2 years. I managed my own, for those of you that don't know, I used to tell everyone I managed my own like spa or salon type thing because I wasn't allowed to disclose it at the time, but I did manage my own European wax centers. If you know what a European wax center is, I was a center manager, so the only manager over my own center, that like center was mine, and Well, the owners were there, and they were there to tell me that I was getting a bonus, and which had never happened the whole time I had been there. So I remember I was shaking and I was crying. I gave them a hug and I was like, this means so much more to you than I can say. And I had called James and I was like, I just feel like life is too good to be true right now. Like, this is amazing. This is the best day ever. There's a baby inside of me. I just got a bonus for work. Like, what is going on? Like, this is insane. So I was just so happy. Like, I'm not someone who enjoyed working, and especially with my previous job, I worked like 45 hours a week, and just, I was like exhausted, but I was just so happy. So I was excited, and I wanted to get in to see a doctor to at least get a blood test, but at least in North Carolina, where I'm from, they do not do that, so I had to wait till the 8-week ultrasound, but I went ahead and got that scheduled. And I bought some more pregnancy tests just because I was like excited and I wanted some confirmation since I wasn't getting that blood test. So I took a test, still a good line, felt good, went a few days feeling good about life, and then randomly I just had a bad feeling. So fast forward a few days, or like a week, and I had this bad feeling, and I don't know what it was. Now looking back, I truly believe how this played out, that it was God telling me, or trying to let me off easy, or prepping me. I don't know. So anyways, I had a bad feeling, so I took a test for peace of mind, and the line just seemed lighter. Now, mind you, I was taking all first response, which I know, like, crazy expensive. I must have spent so much money on a pregnancy test this month, but I was taking all first response, so they were all the same kind of tests, and I was like, why is it lighter? Like, you could still clearly see it. There still wasn't any looking, but it was definitely lighter than the first 2 tests I had taken. I'm sorry if I'm like burping a lot. It's acid reflux and heartburn from the pregnancy. So I went on like a lot of those baby forums. I downloaded all the baby apps, and I was like trying to go through, and I was Googling like tests getting lighter, and that was not good to Google because everything that came up was obviously women who were scared about it and then having a miscarriage, because if someone wasn't scared about it or whatever, they wouldn't be posting it. So I was only getting bad results, which only made me more nervous. So then I took another test, a different brand, the Walmart brand, and I was like, because at this point I'm like, Lauren, you're spending like $40 on pregnancy tests like a day. So the Walmart 88 cents brand, and I peed on it, and I'm waiting, and there's no line, and there's no line. I'm like, what the heck? And then like at the end of the 5 minutes, there was a line. But I was so used to all the other tests showing up while I was peeing. So James was like, don't worry, like, that's a Walmart test. They're different brands. Even if it was the same brand, like, it's still a different test. You don't know how much of like the dye is in it. So I'm like, okay. And mind you, I had no reason to think that I was miscarrying, like no cramps. It was just like this bad feeling I had. So this goes on for a couple days. And so then I keep taking them every morning, and like, I mean, I'm getting up, I'm like crazy. I'm getting up at like 4 a.m. just to see what it says, and they all still say pregnant. They're just faint, but they're not getting lighter. They just, like, the first 2 days were dark, and then every day after that was just lighter than those 2 days, but it wasn't getting progressively lighter. So I was like, why aren't they getting darker? They should be getting darker. My HCG should be doubling. And then I think just going into those forms was making me really negative. But I just felt like kind of sad and had a bad feeling. But everyone was telling me like, it's nothing, you're being crazy. So August 3rd comes around and I went to work and I talked to my friend Jamie, and she had actually previously had a miscarriage years ago before her daughter, so I really confided in her. And I just told her how I was feeling, and I was feeling negative, and had she taken lots of pregnancy tests, and she was like, honestly, I think I only took one, like a normal person. She told me I was just being a worrywart, and she was like, if you were having a miscarriage, you would know. Like, you would know. So 8 hours later into the day, because I worked like 9 or 10 hours days, 1 hour before I was going home, I went to the restroom and I wiped. And it was a very, 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 very light pink. Like if you weren't looking, you wouldn't even see it. It was like that beigey pink, and it was not even like a discharge. It was just like it wasn't dripping. It was just when I wiped. So my stomach sank. I was like, this is it. Pretty much. I went out and I told Jamie at work, and she still was like, that's normal with early pregnancy, like don't worry, like you're stressing yourself out about this. And I wasn't really stressed like that whole week. I just kind of felt like mopey, like I felt sad, like something sad was happening, but I couldn't tell you why. So she once again she said you would know. So I'm at work for this hour, nothing happens, and this is what I think is like another God thing, because I didn't bleed all day or whatever. I get home from work, I go to the restroom, I wipe, and there's bright red blood the second I get home. And I just, at this point, James had already ordered like some kind of pasta from like an Italian place to be delivered, so that was there on the couch, and I just come out of the bathroom and just start bawling and fall on the couch, and I'm like, this is it, like I'm having a miscarriage. And James is kind of getting upset. He's like, stop being negative, like blood's normal, right? Like I thought you said blood was normal, or I've heard that before, like let's Google it. So excuse me, so we started Googling reasons why I could be bleeding. This is probably like 8 p.m. at this point, so I can't really call a doctor. Mind you, I'm not even established yet because I haven't had an ultrasound or anything. So if anything, they would just tell me to kind of like ride it out is what I'm thinking. So I texted Jamie, and she was so sweet that she was like, send me a picture. So I wiped and sent her a picture, but that's how like she wanted to see what I was talking about. And it was definitely like TMI, but like clotty, but not a lot, but like, you know, little specks of like dark red or purple. And she was, so I just laid on the couch and cried and ate my pasta while I cried and tried to relax. And then I was going to the bathroom like every 2 minutes, because obviously you want to see what's going on. And then every time I'd go to the bathroom, my heart would sink some more. And then all of a sudden the pain hit, and that's when I knew, because Jamie said you would know. And it was so much pain. Like I get the worst period cramps. They're so bad that like bent over in pain, like can't do anything. We'll take ibuprofen sometimes, and you know when it gets to the point where like I don't even know what else to do, like there's no other options. I get really bad, but it was like this times 100, and I didn't want to take any ibuprofen under the slim chance that I was still pregnant. I didn't want to hurt the baby, and I was doubled over in pain, and I would just like sit up and bend down, and I couldn't walk, and then I couldn't like even get full breaths. I was in so much pain. Like it just felt like my body was like, it was bad. So at this point I'm like kind of getting scared, like what if it's an ectopic pregnancy? So we decided to go to the emergency room, and at this point it's like 11 p.m. at night, but I was in so much pain, there was nothing else I could do. So we went to the emergency room, and mind you, I'm going to the bathroom like every 2 minutes and drinking water and stuff. So my pee is not very concentrated at this point, but they still had me pee in like a pregnancy test cup when I got to the hospital, which I'm sure is just typical. And James was so sweet, because every time I would go in the bathroom, he would actually come in with me, because they had like the one stall bathrooms. He would come in with me because I was terrified to go to the bathroom. Like, you want to go because you want to see kind of what's going on, but you're so scared to look in the toilet. Like, I just like didn't want to look down, but I would anyway. So he was kind of there for support in the bathroom with me every time I went in there, and wiped. And so I peed in that cup, and I couldn't even sit in the seat in the waiting room. Like, I was like doubled over in pain. I was sweating. Like, my hair was wet from sweat. I like was just in so much pain. So they actually put me in a room pretty fast. And so this is where the doctor horror story comes in. So the doctor comes in and he goes, so pregnancy test was negative. I don't think you were ever pregnant. I think you're just on your period. And I was like, well, I mean, I was pregnant. I'm like, I'm probably not pregnant now. And like, of course the pregnancy test was negative. I've been peeing every 2 minutes. Like, it's not concentrated pee. And he was like, did you even take a pregnancy test? Like, no. I just came in here with period cramps and period blood and just thought I would tell you I was having a miscarriage for fun. Like, of course I knew I was pregnant. Like, I have like 10 pregnancy tests at home that all say positive. I'm like a week and a half, 2 weeks past my period, which has never been late. I have a 28-day cycle every single month, no matter what. Even the first month I got off birth control a year before that, it was right on that. So yeah, he just told me you're on your period. So after that, he's like, well, we'll just do like a blood test to see then for sure. So they draw my blood. And at this point, I'm just like crying. Like, I just can't even believe this. This is so uncomfortable. And then the blood test comes back. They're checking for HCG. And this is what he tells me. He says, you know, it's funny with medicine. Sometimes things aren't for sure. The pregnancy or the blood test doesn't say if you're pregnant or not pregnant. It's kind of like, it doesn't say which one. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's like a number where you could be pregnant, but you also could not be. And I'm making it like sound, the word's not stupider, but more stupid. He was more rude when he was saying it. It was more like, oh, funny thing with blood tests, sometimes they say you're pregnant, sometimes they say you're not, but this one I can't really tell. Like, no emotion, nothing. So I'm like, well, like, what does that mean? So then he's like, well, we're gonna go get you an ultrasound to check for abnormalities. And so then now I'm like panicking, like, abnormalities, like, what could be wrong with me? So then they start to wheel me to the ultrasound room, and I'm like, can James come with you? Mind you, I'm in pain. They don't want to give me any medicine for pain yet in case I am pregnant. James, excuse me, I'm crying my eyes out, and they're like, no, he can't come. So then I get back to the ultrasound room, and the lady is doing a transvaginal ultrasound, and she's like this, like, just searching and then taking pictures of everything. And I'm like, is everything okay? And she's like, I can't say anything. Your doctor will let you know. No emotion. So then I'm freaking out, like, what's wrong? Like, something's wrong for sure then. And I mean, I was just a mess. That, like, I don't even like, I'm like, it's easier to talk about now, but it was hard for a long time. And then even writing these notes down earlier, I was telling James, like, I'm so glad I'm not at this point in my life anymore, because feeling all those emotions again when I was writing it was just making me so sad. But anyways, so she wouldn't tell me anything. So I get back and they're like, oh, the doctor comes in and he says, sorry, I noticed I was looking over there. He said, so, what did he say? He said, oh, my shift, he said something about how his shift was supposed to be over 20 minutes ago, because at this point it's like 1 a.m. So now I'm like, okay, so this is why this guy just wants to go home. Like, I don't know why you would even tell us that. Anyways, and he's like, yeah, so there's no abnormalities. He's like, they looked further into the blood test. You're not pregnant. I really just think you were on your period. I think it's just a period. I don't think you should worry. And I think the nurse could tell how insensitive, because he left the room and the nurse was like, so you took pregnancy tests? And I showed her all of my pregnancy tests on my phone, and she was like, yeah, you were definitely pregnant. I'm sorry. So I think that I had in my mind, I think the baby had passed away a few days beforehand when my tests started getting lighter and my HCG started dropping. And so by the time I'd gotten to the hospital, especially with peeing every 2 minutes, there was probably not a lot of HCG hormone or whatever left in my urine for a positive test. And then I think the number was probably just really low for how far along I should have been when they did the blood test, which is why he said, I can't tell if you're pregnant or not. But the way it was handled, and to tell a woman while she's miscarrying that he doesn't think I was ever pregnant and that I was just on my period, was so mind-blowing. So me and James left the hospital at like 2 a.m. So we were only there for like 3 hours. Everything moved pretty quickly. We weren't in like a real room. We were in one of those rooms where there's just like a curtain and there's like other people too, like you're kind of in the main area. But I texted my boss and kind of just told her everything, and told her I didn't think I was going to come into work the next day. I was just in way too much pain and da-da-da, and she was very understanding and very sweet. So James and I went at like 2 a.m. to Harris Teeter that we had, which is a grocery store that was 24 hours, and I think we got like some junk food and a bottle of wine, and we went home and I had a bottle of wine and I cried and we watched movies, and the next day we just laid around and did nothing to kind of heal. And it was just, I was sad, and then I don't know, I felt like almost prepared for it at that point. Like I felt like it was going to happen, so it was almost like a sense of closure, like I know what's going on kind of thing. But I was so sad, and I mean so sad to the point that when we got the hospital bill, which was almost $2,000 for those 3 hours that we were there, and for me being told that I was on my period, because it was like a $200 bill for the labs, a $200 bill for an ultrasound, and then a $1,400 bill for all it says is ER visit. So I did try to fight it. I mean, not too hard. I was so upset at the time that when I got the bill, I really didn't want to pay it because I didn't understand. Like, I understand getting paid for the labs and the ultrasound because they did take blood and they did do an ultrasound, but like $1,400, and this is after my insurance too. But I had sent like a long thing pretty much with this in detail to the hospital billing team on why I felt like it shouldn't be paid and how unprofessional the doctor was and how I was treated. And she pretty much sent back like, I'm very sorry, like you'll need to file a da-da-da-da. And it was too much work and I couldn't do it. And anytime I'd get a bill or they would call, James would have to answer because I would just get too upset. I didn't like talking about it for like a couple months. And yeah, so that was pretty much it. It was definitely a hard time in my life because from August until I got pregnant with this baby, I was terrified to get pregnant again because I just assumed like something's wrong with me. Like, this is my first pregnancy and I had a miscarriage, like something's wrong with me, or I have some kind of disease. And then when you Google miscarriages, it's like, oh, it could be caused by an autoimmune disorder, an STD, or a disease, da, da, da. And so then you're just kind of like, but what they don't tell you is that it's just normal too. It's completely normal. It just means that something didn't happen how it was supposed to when the baby was made or connected or attached, and it just happens. And so with this pregnancy, for those of you who have followed on this journey, now maybe you'll understand a little bit more of why I was such a nervous wreck in the beginning of this pregnancy. So I struggled a lot. August, I obviously didn't try to get pregnant because we were getting my body back on track. September, I didn't try to get pregnant. I was trying not to get pregnant. And then October and November, I felt really gung-ho and we were trying, and then I didn't get pregnant, and I was really upset because I was just upset. Then it brought back all the old feelings. And then December, I went back to, I don't want to be pregnant for like a couple years. Like, it's too scary. I don't want to have that stress. Like, I don't know. I don't want to go through that again. And then, of course, that's the month that I got pregnant and everything worked out. So I just wanted to make this video and kind of share my story with you guys. And so yeah, that was almost a year ago. So life's so much different now, but that was a very hard time in my life. And if you're going through that right now, I'm with you, and please feel free to comment down below and we can talk, and my prayers are with you, and just know that your time will come and nothing is wrong with you. And even if you go to the hospital and you're treated like that, I know that sometimes doctors in the hospital are just like that. He wasn't an OB/GYN, he wasn't trained, but I do think it was handled extremely unprofessionally. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys my story. So that is the story of when I had my miscarriage, around 5 to 6 weeks, which can sometimes be considered a chemical pregnancy because it could mean the baby didn't successfully attach or whatever. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any requests, or if you just want to talk about your experience or anything, please leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm so close to 10,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.